Okay, so here's something else that I was hoping that we could talk about, and that is the story of walking. So I have a quote here, and I'm going to read the quote, and then I'm going to tell you who said it. We'll see. So here's the quote. As a disabled person whose everyday navigation of the world requires the use of assistive devices, unassisted walking practices are not ordinary. This beautiful quote is by our very own Evelina. So Evelina has started this beautiful blog on the internet, and she's writing about her experience, her lived experience as a person with a disability in a wheelchair. Stop me if I'm getting this wrong, okay, Evelina?
No, you're right on the money.
Yeah, and she's just written so beautifully about her experience, especially how we use words. And a word like walk, for someone who is in a wheelchair, holds a very different meaning to someone who, like me, who is not in a wheelchair. It's just it's a different thing. So I thought it might be good for us to consider a word like walking that we all hear every day, we use every day, but certainly our experience of walking is different. So does anybody want to tell me a story about what the word walking means? When you hear that word, what does it make you feel? What does it make you think about?
Just getting out in the community for me.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, Mike says getting out in the community. Actually, when we were together last week, Mike, you said you went for a walk, and you said you went for a walk with one of your pals who helps you out during the day.
Yeah.
And you use the word walking, but I mean, you're wheeling, or I don't, like, do you get out of your chair, Mike, to walk?
No, I have somebody pushing me
Okay,
down the street. So
got it.
they do the walking for
They do
me.
walking. But it's still walking for you. You're still going for a walk.
Outside.
Sarah, how do you feel, if you don't mind sharing, when you hear the word walking? What does that mean to you? What does that feel like to you?
I've been in this wheelchair my entire life, so I've known nothing different. But the messages that I got, and I still get as an adult, but I got as a child and as an adolescent, that walking meant more freedom. But now that I've grown up and I've found disability justice and a different way to look at disability, I'm trying to change my view on that. People in wheelchairs have it rough sometimes with means of transportation and stuff like that as well. But I'm trying to change my outlook with it because I have freedom. I have freedom in my own way. Like I could still go places. It might be a little bit harder, but I still have freedom. So it brings up mixed emotions for me, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, that's amazing. I love the connection of walking and freedom. And I love that how over time for you that's shifted. And, yeah. and the freedom has opened up, and walking it's almost like it's one form of moving.
Yeah, it's just one form of moving for me. Yeah. I'm trying to think that way, but you know, it's hard to undo all that stuff that you've been taught about yourself. But yeah, it's just one form of moving for me. Just one form of moving. They move this way, I move a different way.
Does anybody want to share their story about their disability? Does it have a name? What name do you use for it? If anybody wants to communicate that, because that's definitely a story for sure that connects to our voice, and the way that we tell our story affects, how we feel about ourselves and our pride in ourselves and the kind of empowering voice that we're talking about here.
I liked the second part of where you ask, what do you call it? Who is part of your story and where does it take place? So I like the inclination of where it takes place, because it assumes that we are not disabled everywhere, just in spaces that are not built for us in mind.
Yeah.
So it's not that we are disabled all the time or that we feel our disability all the time, because I think that we learn to use our bodies just like everybody else, and we become quite used to using our bodies in the way that feels comfortable. But the suggestion of, you can be disabled in one place and not so much in the next place is very real.
Like, for instance, I feel the place where I feel the freest is my home, because my home is built for me. But when I go outside of my home, like even to relatives' place, houses or whatever, there's always a constant reminder that I need certain accommodations in order to, I have to book Handy Transit in order to go to my relative's house. There's got to be a ramp because there's a little bit of a step. I got to remember to bring certain things with me and stuff like this. So I feel freest in my home. That's one of the struggles that we as disabled people face, is that we're put into a society that wasn't built with us in mind. We have to learn how to accommodate within, and there's been accommodations made for us, ramps and stuff like that. But society could always do better.
Thank you, Sarah.
Well, I'm a in-betweener, if that's what you can call it. I still have this guy. And so for what you want to call it, is this guy is called Jinx. Mm-hmm. And he is everything bad because I have MS.
Okay.
So I tell my stories from a third party. Because I'm still dealing with not walking. It's hard when 6 months ago you could walk wherever you wanted to go. And then just because of the fate of genetics, today, not so much. I enjoy going to Vanessa's writing, Gertrude's writing room, because I feel, what Sarah said, I feel very safe there. I know where it is. I know I can get in and out. I know that Vanessa is there to help me in and out. Plus, my niece just bought a house across the street from Williston Park. So I feel very good there. And I try to make myself go there every week so that I can get used to going outside and learning that freedom and independence like Sarah talked about. And I'm grateful that she introduced me to a group of people that are so comfortable in their own skin. And it's so nice to know that, other people are dealing with the same problems, some better, some worse.
Thank you for sharing that, Gigi. And I know that requires a lot of vulnerability. So I do thank you for that. And I hear you very clearly. And as someone who has lived my entire life as someone with a disability, so it's not an onset or an acquired disability, the road to acceptance is quite long. So it took me a while, or most of my life. It wasn't until I was well into my mid-20s that I claimed the title or the identity of a person with a disability. Like, it was very obvious just by looking at me, but I never openly acknowledged or spoke about it until my late 20s. I
understand
so that. It took a while, and it's a specter. It lingers.
If people see me, I tend to tell them, old football injury.
I've had this disability my whole life, and it's like, for me, it's kind of like the opposite. I always kind of like always was brought up with this kind of like, oh, don't see your disability, see what you can do type thing. And I was always like Miss Sunshine, like 24/7. I can do this, and it's not. I can do this, I can do that, and I can do, whatever. And it's not. It wasn't until a couple summers ago where I got introduced to disability justice through a film on Netflix called Crip Camp that I'm like, you know what? I can have that day. I don't have to be married, sunshine 24/7. I can have that day and I can, kind of wallow in it, but then move on. It's like I'm starting to vocalize a bit more about how society can improve and everything else like this. I was always taught to like not rock the boat, and whatever. And it's like, no, that's not how things get done. You have to rock the boat in order for your voice to be heard. People come in all different shapes, sizes, colors. People with disabilities, especially in the media and stuff, we're always portrayed as happy, bubbly, and like, no, we can be surly too. We can be downright bitches.
For sure. Right. And why not? Right? Like, of course.
We're all human. We may all make assumptions about things we don't understand. But I find that our people with disabilities get assumed on a little bit too much.
I just think that there is a value in the way that we live, and bodies are resilient things. We adapt to different things, and we just have to redefine how it is that we view ourselves and find value in our way of being and our way of moving it. But that's a long, contentious process, especially when we have a lot of imagery and story that's basically told from sort of an able-bodied point of view. And that's difficult because we don't necessarily see those stories of how we come into accepting ourselves for who we are. Usually stories about disability is how people overcome them, and not so much how people learn to live with them.
Yeah, there's this thing about overcoming with disability, and you want to just like, yeah, you get it at one point, but then you just want to take the people and shake them and like, I will not overcome this. This isn't something I have to overcome. This is something that I have to live with. I have to shape my own path into living with this, and it's not, and it's time for us even to stop viewing disability as a burden, because people are different. Like, I don't want to assume, but like certain people of color, they have pride. They have pride in themselves because they are black, they are Asian. They have pride in them. Why can't we have disability pride?
You can, and that's why we're having these workshops.
Yes. Yeah.
To show that there is community and that we are here for each other. I mean, the great thing about stories is that they change, and we have the power to change them, and we have the power to decide the words we use to make the story. Okay, so Dee, you shared with us your object, your jinx. Yep. Does anybody else have an object that they wanted to share and tell us a story about their object?
I have an object.
Okay.
It's a very sort of everyday object.
Okay.
But there is a story associated with this. So this is kind of like a plastic rubberized cup holder with a handle. The biggest struggle in my daily life is holding a cup and driving my wheelchair at the same time.
Okay.
So I don't have enough like range in my left hand to hold the circumference of a cup, depending on what cup it is. This made it very easy to hold the cup in my left hand and then use my right hand for things such as unlocking my office door or opening doors or, whatever, because I'm right hand dominant.
If something makes your life easier, I completely, at least, I so understand.
Yeah.
That mug is worth $50 if it
Yeah.
keeps your hot beverage at your side.
I have an object here, but I don't know if I would be able to lift it to show everybody. But it's something I could just describe it to you if you would like. Like I love talking about disability in relationships, disability in dating, and all that goes with it. So I contributed my opinions to my opinions. It's not my book at all, but I contributed my opinions to a book called the Handi Book of Love, Lust, and Disability. And it's people with disabilities, all types of disabilities, not just in America and Canada, but from all over the world, like people as far as Australia. It's just their opinions on certain questions. I got emailed questions, and yes, some of them were very personal. But I'm an open book when it comes to this type of thing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be vulnerable here, and I'm going to just answer. And I am really proud of this book that I contributed to, because it's something that I'm very passionate about. Excuse the pun. So, yeah.
Awesome. I just put it to our last screen. I mean, we talked about everything and more. So I feel really good about our discussion and conversation tonight.